Hello, my friends. I've got the June monthly report on Star Citizen here for you with plenty of little interesting bits and detailed video to accompany it. If you enjoy it, consider joining my Patreon to get them early in written format, and stick around for giveaway details and updates at the end of the video. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. And thanks to my newest Patreon supporters Finn Flood, Mr. Snaps, Sophie Dunn, and that Aussie guy. June opened with an interesting bit of developer insight. Unlike any other time for many involved, AI developers were able to work in person with motion capture actors to get insight and feedback on the recording sessions to help in the future. These recordings are already being made into in-game animations as well. Patrons have been updated to handle the new shop types coming to the game, as well as usables that NPCs will interact with at the new outposts coming in a later update. The security guard has been taken as the new ground zero for AI development, with dynamic conversations being the focus. This included allowing players to ask about directions and report a crime. This work also included tying in reputation-based feedback to the security AI logic flow, meaning that AI in certain areas and associated with certain factions will react to you in different ways based on your reputation with that faction. In ships, additional work has gone into allowing AI to specify which subcomponent they want to target on a ship, changing angle of attack, attack style, and maybe even weapon type to complete a specific goal, such as maybe disabling a pirate ship to save some citizens from being sold into slavery. On the human AI side, NPCs received work on their reactions to outside stimuli such as gunshots or detecting an enemy while using an object. This would be important considering NPCs will be carrying out tasks on their own time throughout the game. This is done by finding unique positions between various usable objects and connecting them all to a similar exit animation to decrease the number of variables for a very common occurrence. The ability for NPCs to carry cargo between areas has been prototyped, and multiple NPCs can now transfer cargo crates to and from various areas, working together to create a supply chain of cargo. The tech team has continued working on the planetary navigation mesh, which will help NPCs move around the surface of planets and moons. Actual path navigation through a closed loop has also been added, as you would see in many other games. The subsumption editor is continuing to be embedded into the game engine, further allowing for better understanding of the logic of missions and NPCs. Animation made a lot of progress on many different assets, so here's the quick breakdown. Progress has been made on storm walls, emotes, eating and drinking, AI in main world locations, and the salvage weapon. Art Tech worked on helping set up a system that allows players to equip and unequip backpacks in a believable fashion. This includes new backpacks being worked on in 3.14, 3.15, and the future. Holographic props for the much anticipated Asset Manager were also worked on. The Montreal team has finished up most hospital locations and continues to work on the smaller station clinics as well as the Area 18 hospital. Exploration gameplay saw some work with the team using derelict ships to create puzzles with loot and gameplay mixed in. While the initial goal is to create 12 planet-side puzzles and 12 space-side puzzles, these serve as the first very basic versions of the dynamic content that will begin to fill the first star system now that each planet has been completed. Finally, the Montreal team worked on developing building interior gameplay, as they worked with the tools team together to create a procedurally generated building interiors tool so that those could be tied into mission and gameplay in the future. We're definitely going to keep an eye on this feature. The landing zone and modular teams took the new outpost locations through final art before starting on new variations and themes, so there is plenty of variety upon implementation. In ships, the US team finished the new mid-size cargo hauler, the Constellation. I'll be hosting a giveaway for this ship on Twitch. Make sure to join my Discord below for more details to come. The Crusader Ares variants, the single-seat heavy hitters, are moving into final art for release at year's end. The beginning salvager, the Drake Vulture, has begun the early white box stage, so expect to see it next year. And a variant of a popular ship to be announced this year has begun. I think it's like an extreme emergency terrapin ambulance. And tomato delivery. The tomato pin. The UK team completed final art on an unannounced ship as well. I'm not even going to guess at what this is, but there are a couple possibilities. The Aegis Redeemer is now receiving work on its interior for release in Alpha 3.15. Gold standard status continued for the Saber and Retaliator, with no new ships currently undergoing the polish phase. And the large Hercules bomber received work for scheduled release in 3.15. The weapons art team worked in June on the mining gadget before passing it on to the animation team, while the animation for the tractor beam tool and salvage tool have already begun. Audio finished up work on Crusader and Orison, which I will have a lot to say on a later date, and worked heavily on hospitals and medical gameplay. They also supported missile operator mode and capacitor gameplay, which have some great sound design.
Contact. Kill.
Over at the engine team, the physics team has optimized the method by which the game can retrieve an object's cross-section for scanning, so that this process doesn't weigh down performance as much. Progress was made on empty space skipping, which is still a very experimental process used to optimize actions such as cloud rendering. New graphical quality options were added to the game, which will see further refinement and expansion as the game continues through development. A driver on the 1000 series CPU was investigated and received a workaround as it was causing some issues. Further work will need to be done to see if the issues have been remedied by the workaround, but it's there. The core engine team finalized the switch to Clang 11, which is used to compile the game server and can help save a ton of time when compiling builds of the game servers. Actor status was a big focus of the character feature team, with work continuing on the new status effects. With the introduction of blood drug levels in Alpha 3.15, players will need to use drugs to maintain pain from injuries without overdosing. The same can go for drugs and alcohol, all of which can affect the way that you drive, fly, or even move around on the ground. Another new addition coming with medical gameplay is the down state. Now, instead of dying unless hit with excessive immediate damage, you will enter a down state in which you can slowly die but also can be revived. This will be crucial, as medical gameplay and the need to not die as much anymore become very important over the next 2 patches. Meanwhile, a big initiative on optimization saw big progress. This optimization is meant to reduce the amount of character component updates that trigger the further away they are. The US feature team continued work on the player asset manager, filling out features like filtering and sorting, some very much needed options in Star Citizen. The app name has also been revealed after consulting with the narrative team. It will be called Knickknacks. Each MobiGlas app appears to be similar to a real-world app on your phone, so the theme seems to be cheeky names hinting at functionality. So if you see a MobiGlas app with a normal name, it hasn't been updated yet. On the cargo side of things, the cargo refactor has expanded a bit and persistent hangars and commodity selling have begun. Get ready to live that space trucker dream. In the UK, loot generation moved along for implementation in 3.15 or 3.16, and atmospheric depth damage began development for gas giants like the newly added Crusader. Ship-to-ship refueling began production scheduled for next year so that players can trade fuel for credits in a heavily applied, profession-ready gameplay loop. The vehicle's feature team worked on the new thruster dust effects and improvements to docking, which was introduced in the previous update. They also implemented the much-needed HUD rework coming in Alpha 3.14. As this work completes, many members are moving to the jump points as progress begins to move towards further expansion. In June, the graphics team finished up a window shader which will allow building interiors to be faked on big buildings and in cities. They also finished the ping CIG shaders. This is a new version of the ping effect used in radar and scanning features. It allows for a wave to be created that triggers effects when intersecting with geometry. This could be a cool effect to save for other uses later. Graphics did work on the new HUD, assisting UI in making sure various effects such as brightening and color correction worked with minimal performance impact. They also implemented optimizations to help performance in cities and around clouds, and addressed some of the final bugs in the new lighting system. This is the second time in a monthly report we've heard about a new lighting system. I believe this is the same one that we saw last month, but we'll confirm that later in this report. Great progress was made with the new renderer, with the majority of post effects now running on Gen 12. The benefits of moving those effects over to Gen 12, however, will mostly be felt with the GPU side of things. The narrative team worked on the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2951 event coming up towards the end of the year, as well as several other upcoming dynamic missions. They also helped support the development of the new Pyro system, AI behaviors, and lore regarding medical and hacking gameplay. The props team closed out their tasks on Orison, hospitals, and the new colonialism outposts. This was a welcome break from the clean, high-tech assets we've been doing recently, and the team has been pushing our materials and really trying to hit the mark set out in the new colonialism art style guide. In June, the SST team prepared for the next iteration of the economy and AI simulation. This includes a package of closely integrated softwares that work together to simulate a dynamic and expansive economy that is merely affected by players, but mainly driven by logic. Because we can't be trusted with that. This new iteration will improve fidelity and interaction with the game itself. In June, the tech animation team made a lot of progress on improving their workflow and pipeline. R&D was completed for streamlining the facial scan and scan creation pipelines, saving tons of future man-hours and helping to solidify a more expedited facial pipeline for NPCs and characters in-game. The team also overhauled the weapons pipeline with a facelift and new toolset to assist in weapon creation, and supported the improvement and optimization of two other key technologies. Pipeline. The game services team continued focus on server meshing, alongside service improvements and documentation. The first implementation of multi-user private lobbies in Spectrum have been complete, which will eventually lead to in-game chat lobbies connected to Spectrum as well. The programmers of the UI team worked with the actor feature team on healing gameplay and the associated UI screens of healing and hospitals. Then they further developed the new star map and connected it to the radar system. This includes AR map markers, the star map, interior maps, and the radar system. Next, they will be working on how to implement it into the game and the actual functioning UI. The artists and designers worked on figuring out the general feel and functionality of the MobiGlas itself, outside of all of the apps. As I've been saying, with building blocks maturing and new HUDs, reputation, star map, and other UI coming out, you should be expecting to see a full MobiGlas overhaul, possibly next year. The new particle lighting system, as mentioned in the previous monthly report and earlier in this monthly report, has been implemented into the game with Alpha 3.14. This system will do a couple of things. It will allow for much better quality of lighting for particles such as explosions or dust, but it will also create a more consistent creation method for effects without worrying about how different lighting will cause those effects not to work well. And finally, the destruction pipeline was further fleshed out, particularly for Theaters of War, a new play mode coming to Star Citizen in the future. While not a jam-packed monthly report, June did have some very interesting developments in UI, AI, and features. As a pre-patch month, it was a bit light on new interesting news, but with the staggered development style, we can see that plenty of work has been underway for a while in this month and last month's report for the next update. Be sure to check out last month's monthly report because there is news there that wasn't in this one. And think about subscribing to this channel for more of these monthly updates, quarterly patch reviews, yearly updates, gameplay, cinematics, feature deep dives. There's a lot of stuff on this channel. And if you'd like, you can support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Or you can join our community on Twitch or Discord where we play all kinds of games such as Star Citizen, Halo, Apex Legends, Valheim, and more. Finally, remember to sign up for that ongoing 25,000 subscriber giveaway in the video description along with all the other links I mentioned here. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you later. Thanks to my top supporters TK, Valiant15, The Alpaca, Holston Coop, The Huntress, Falcus Vipus, Dasek, Guilty Conscious, Extreme Tuber 7, El Gordo, Stuart Granger, Niku, and Jin.